Wrestling fans, I'm Dan Marty.
And I'm John Cena Sr.
Unbelievable, Johnny. I'm telling you, you're ready to put Red Bull out of business with this Fabo Pop.
The best ever, let me tell you. New flavors, new time. I might even work on a Christmas label.
Really?
Yeah, I might do that.
A limited edition Fabo
How about we
Pop
do that?
for Christmas?
Limited edition Fabo Pop, one time only.
All right, well, it was a hellacious night in Orlando, Florida at the Thunderdome with SmackDown. We're back with a brand new Wrestling Insiders Fabulous Friday. Stand by.
This is Mick Foley.
This is Harley Race.
This is Shelton Benjamin.
This is Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff.
This is the Monster Abyss.
And this is Daniel Bryan.
This is JBL, and you're watching the MWF.
Be there live.
All right, wrestling fans, welcome back to Wrestling Insiders. Again, Friday night on Fox. SmackDown is lighting it up each and every week, but the fans are enjoying you here back weekly again, Johnny.
Well, thank you, fans. I really appreciate that. Don't hesitate to file Dan with some questions or ask questions, and who knows? Maybe we'll do one night. I'll come down. We'll just have questions.
Maybe a live special.
We could do that.
Like we had a lot of fun when Tony was
on
on
we did.
live.
He's great. Yeah. Great man. So great to be back. Thanks.
You got a little Joe Mascolo in you. You're like the phoenix from Greek mythology. You just rise from the ashes.
You never know when I'm going to rise, though.
Well, and in what way?
That's like the C word.
Or the V word, I guess.
Oh, here we go. All right.
All right, Johnny, the fans they've been asking questions galore. They wanted to know, Johnny, what you thought of one of a member of the family, his Facebook murder confession of Marty Jannetty. I don't know if you actually read the statement that Marty posted on Facebook, but it led to certainly a week I didn't expect when our program was on Fox News, Variety Fair, we were on TMZ, People Magazine, the National Enquirer, the New York Times. Our show really made the rounds for reasons I never expected.
Because somebody came out and said there was a murder, and he was involved in that murder.
Now, did you actually read what he wrote?
I read some of it, and I only
Would you like me to read the quote? Because I did print it.
Yep, that's fine. Why don't we do that?
All right. I never told no one this, even my brother Gino, because Gino would have killed him. And I didn't want my brother gone. Hell, he'd only recently returned home from Vietnam. I was 13 working at Victory Lane's bowling alley buying weed from a fag that worked there, and he put his hands on me. He dragged me around the back of the building. You already know what he was going to try to do. That was the first time I made a man disappear. They never found him. They should have looked in the Chattahoochee River. And then he went on to talk about relationship issues he was having. Marty, certainly a late-night Facebook post that he regretted making, but what went on to be a very, very hurtful story that he shared with the world about what went on when that man tried to violate him. And what bothered me about the whole thing, Johnny, was, take aside from some of the comments and words used in that statement, social media, tabloid types took that as professional wrestler confesses to murder. I saw another one, WWE legend kills gay man. How about a 13-year-old middle school kid tried to fend off a sexual assault?
How about the fact that Marty Jannetty admitted that it was only a storyline?
Well, I think there's
and I know where we're going with this,
yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, we don't have all the facts.
Right.
All we have is a great wrestler, and I really mean that. Marty has his own issues like we all do.
Many.
Yes. But the fact of the matter is, you know what? I don't know whether to believe that story or not. And the news media today is responsible for so much BS. COVID, Trump, Biden, Democrats, Republicans, floods. They never give you, as Paul Harvey would say, the rest of the story. For someone to make that type of confession, basically what he has claimed is, it's not the first person I've done in. Is that what he said? If you read that quote again?
Well, no, he said
it's not the first person I've made disappear. Well, disappear You know, if
Could
you
mean
watch
a lot of things.
If you watch The Godfather, you know a lot of people disappear, right? Look at Soprano. A lot of people
Well, Marty
disappear.
isn't exactly Don Corleone.
Yeah, but he tries to be. You know what I'm saying? So I would say this to you, that I would take that with a grain of salt. I really would. I wonder if it really ever happened.
I have no doubt that I have no doubt that parts of it really happened.
Okay.
And I'll say this, it's hurt the man's soul through his life.
Well, wouldn't it? Okay, you're out with a friend, and the friend turns around and does something that you never expected to happen.
Well, this wasn't a friend. This was an adult man.
I understand that, but you know what? If you go into the pit,
Yeah.
you've got to expect a viper. You know what? You knew what you were getting into.
But he was a middle school kid, Johnny.
But stop.
All right.
You're dealing with a predator. The predator, first of all, deals on your drug habit. That's number one. Two, predators are very devious, screwed up individuals. Why would you put yourself in harm's way? And I'm going to tell you something. I am sure by that comment that he knew, and I don't like that word, fag. I hate that word. That's disgusting. Why belittle someone who has a different sexual orientation? That's another story for another time. I think that's disgusting.
That didn't help the cause.
The word should never be used ever. And I think if he was on ball, he would have said, a person of a different sexual orientation, gay, whatever you want. That still would hurt the community. But for God's sakes.
Well, you know what, to be honest, and I don't want to knock Marty, I think if he simply went with the word pedophile.
Fine.
Because not every gay person is
thank
out to
you.
rape little children.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So sick of this. I really am. Now I'm getting a little upset.
All right.
And I shouldn't. But the word pedophile might have been the word to use. Choose your words carefully. But you put yourself in the water. You knew there were piranha in there. When you're dealing with somebody who sells drugs, stop, brother. Think about where you are. Think about who you're dealing with. He ain't the highest on the ladder.
Well,
and the marbles aren't all in the bag.
Well, but look at it like this. What if this incident is what maybe disrupted Marty's train of thought through life? What if it's something that always clung to him? I mean, look at victims of sexual abuse in life. And I'll say this man that was involved in this situation, there's a lot more that can be said to this than Marty said that has come out. And I'm going to leave that at that. It's his story. He'll fully tell the whole story at some point in his life. That's Marty's story to tell. But what I'm trying to say is, this man, I'm sure, when he went at Marty, it was not the first time he ever went after a kid. And whatever wound up happening on that day, if it didn't happen, probably wouldn't have been the last time a scumbag like that would have went after a kid. And I think anytime that happens to certainly not the F word, but anytime you can stop a pedophile in their tracks and eliminate them from society, no matter how it's done, that might be too stern for some people, but I think it's a great thing. Because every kid that gets put in that position where they're abused like that, look at the lives they go on to lead. I made a point on one of the talk shows, I think it was with Tony. I'm sure you're familiar with the WWF sex scandals that they went through in 1992. There was an underage ring crew member named Tom Cole that was abused by people that WWE got rid of instantaneously when they found out about it. But what isn't widely known is this young teenage kid that was abused on the road, setting up the rings way, way back in the early 80s, I believe is when it happened. You know what he went on to do? Molest kids.
I agree with what you're saying to a point. Are you saying that that this situation so disturbed Mr. Ginetti that he was on both sides of the fence?
No, what I'm saying is maybe it could have hurt Marty so much that it turned him to a life of drugs and alcohol. You know, mental health wasn't as widely as available back in the early 70s as it is now.
I'm not taking sides. All I'm going to say is this. You're already on the wrong track.
Me or Marty?
No. When I'm pointing to his comments.
Okay.
You know, not you. We know how saintly you are. Another story for another time, fans. And you will want that story. Anyway, when I listened to that comment, so it almost makes me think that Ginetti was packing. How do you fight off a man, a 13-year-old kid? A 13-year-old kid is going to fight off a Dan Marati or a shot, fat, ugly John Cena Sr. Let's stop and look at this picture. How jacked was this young man at 13?
He used a brick.
Okay, let's stop and think about this now. And I'm not trying to take away anything from the story, because I think the world of Ginetti, I really do. And Ginetti is not a liar. Might inflate it sometimes, but he's not a liar. So at what point did you get the brick, and then how did you use it? So the man would have to be down, number one, to get hit in the head with a friggin' brick. I don't want to go any further with this, because I think the more I dig, it's going to be like CSI. The facts we get are maybe the ones we don't really want.
Well, Marty really went in depth with what happened during the assault, and when he had Marty on the ground and was trying to, I guess maybe remove the clothing is the best way to put it, was when he used the brick.
Okay, so that would render the man unconscious.
Right.
Shouldn't have been enough to kill him.
All right, well, maybe this is going to turn into CSI. I don't know.
You don't know, and I'm not a detective. I certainly do not approve of the conduct that you've read. I think that you're absolutely right. Anybody who preys on little children,
Off with the head.
I'm not a
Off
fan.
with the head.
Yeah, I'm also not.
No second chances
those
for that.
words. I'm not defending any gender. All I'm saying is that you could use a better choice of words and still come up with the same thing. It just tells me by the use of the words that maybe you might be to the same level. So think about what you're saying and how you say it. I think he's got a great story to tell. I think.
Well, I don't think he has a great story to tell. I think he has a story to tell.
But no, he has a great story, because it's untold. It's the rest of the story, as I say to you about Paul Harvey. At 13, you're buying grass or marijuana. Was it only marijuana you were buying?
You think at 13 he was buying harder drugs than marijuana from the man at the bowling alley?
Let me tell you something.
All right.
When I used to teach driver ed, I would do a closed door session with these kids in 13, 14 years old on drugs. Let me tell you something. They just weren't doing weed.
At 13?
At 13,
Really?
14 years old. And
I must have lived a very sheltered life, I guess.
and if you do more investigation, you'll find out that some young people have sexual encounters at age 6 and 8. Well, see,
What?
you don't do that. You don't read.
6 and 8?
You don't read. They get into this program of exploring. I'm not saying that they're getting into this thing, but you need to understand. And I'm not trying to. Maybe the fans will shoot me down and say he's full of shit in plain English.
No, I consider you a wise man. Even if
But
we
I
always
like to
don't get
read.
along.
I like to read and do research. I'm not saying it's every kid. That's how kids get in trouble. That's how kids fall down. But when you start talking about drugs, alcohol is the #1 abused drug in the country. The difference between alcohol and marijuana is that alcohol dissipates from the brain, fatty tissue, in 24 hours. Marijuana, 7 days. So think about the residual that's left. When I was doing these classes, I'll tell you how ignorant I was about drugs. I thought a roach clip is what you caught a bug with. I'm being honest with you. Till I started talking to these kids. A young lady in the front, 22 years old, she said, I was a prostitute at 14 for drugs. For drugs. So when you start talking about this stuff, I sit back and I go, at 13, that's some pretty heavy shit. I hate to use these words, but I'm just opening up.
You're shooting.
Yeah, I'm shooting right now. That's just, you know what? I think we need to get the rest of the story.
Well, and we had a similar episode with Tony Atlas, and I don't know if you had a chance to see it, but Tony came out and admitted that he was sexually attacked twice when he was a kid.
And I can believe that. I can truly believe that. I think that...
And I say this before you continue, look at the damage that drugs did to both of their lives as adults. And I'm not going to 100% blame these attacks on them as kids, but I don't think it helped.
I guess all I'm going to say is this.
Okay.
I have never been in that situation. I don't know how he'd react in that situation. I've talked to a lot of people who were involved in the biggest pedophile case in the world, You know what I'm saying? The church.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Okay.
right. Jeez, how could I not have thought of that?
And nothing against that, but I can only say this, that it ruined a lot of lives where they were afraid to talk, where they did turn to drugs or alcohol. They were afraid to speak. Some got married, were afraid to tell people what they had experienced in the past. It really can decimate. It can destroy. And that's what people aren't looking at. But at the same time, we all have control of our lives and our destinies. Sometimes we put ourselves in positions where we rely on what I call the hider, alcohol, drugs. You know, I used to say it when I taught. I'd say, what good is the alcohol? You try to hide from exactly what it is you should be facing, running away. And what happens when you wake up in the morning? Is it gone? No, it's there. And it's 3 times worse than it was. So seek help, find help. It's very hard for somebody to come out and say, I'm of a different gender. God bless them for doing that. We need to respect them, not spit on them. We need to associate and be kind. You know what? The Merchant of Venice was very clear. Slice my wrist and I bleed red just like you. God made us all, regardless of who we are or what we are. He made us the way we are. So why not embrace that? If you have an issue, face it. It's hard to discuss things. There's things in my past that I sit down and say, I don't know how I could talk about this. Maybe I'll feel better if I did. But somehow there's their inner you that said, don't let people know that that happened. You know? And so, you know, how do you deal with this fact that, oh, I was working at a store and the young woman that was there took advantage of me, or the store owner took advantage of me? How do you face that? First of all, if you ever went back in my day when I was a kid and said, oh, I was at such and such a place and Reverend Father Billy, whoever, Rabbi, took advantage of me, let me tell you, my teeth would be on the floor and I'd be up against the wall. They wouldn't believe you.
Right.
So that was a case of taking advantage of, using and abusing.
In 1973, would that have been the case if Marty came out and shared his story?
You may well have got a valid point, but it would have been better for him to seek help and come out with it rather than to retain it and cause more demons to be butted out of the body. It's very difficult.
It's almost, I hate to say it, but it's almost like he added abuse to himself.
Thank you.
By keeping it internal for
I guess
so
you
long.
said it in a nice way instead of being blabbing on and being pontificating. I think you said it very nicely.
It's just, it hurts to know that not only Marty went through it, but what Tony experienced as a kid down in Virginia. I mean, maybe there is a lot more of this that goes on than we even realize.
And I think that's what needs to come out. And I think you made a very valid point, that people of different genders are not pedophiles. I know when I taught...
Well, I think maybe the term you're looking for is sexual orientation.
Well, that's true, but that's a good one.
Right.
So, but if you take the course, when I taught CCD for the church, the first thing you have to do is go through this course. And most pedophiles are family members, uncles, aunts, fathers, mothers. We're looking in the wrong places. We're looking in the wrong places. And so I think if we want to eradicate, we've got to understand. You know, you can't condemn and condone. I wrote an article of that when I was at the Salem News. I did an editorial on that. You can't condemn and condone. You can't have both sides. And I think with this situation, it's probably not the first time it happened. And I think that became something that ate away. Maybe it ate away. You know?
I'd like to see Marty find peace. Now that
Amen.
Marty's been with us so many times, I've considered him a friend. He's a unique individual. He's got some of those no-holds-barred sex, drugs, and rock and roll stories. But I think, you know, maybe his life would have taken a different path had this incident not happened.
I think the world of Marty Jannetty. I've had a chance to meet him several times.
He's part of the team now.
He's great, but he's great.
He's
I
great.
have nothing but good words for Marty Jannetty. And as I said before, we all have demons in our closets. So no problem. Great guy, great human being, great story. So now we need to know the rest of the story.
Would you give Marty any advice, Johnny? Well, you're such a wise man. He has a lot of respect for you, as he's mentioned on some of the shows.
I respect him.
He wants some of the Fabo Pop.
Anytime.
I think he puts it over more than I do. I don't know if you've seen the episodes, but he's always raising a bottle.
He's a good man.
Someone that's a little older than Marty, would you give him any advice at this point?
He's a good man. I think what he needs to do, if this is still a situation, is you need to find somebody to listen, somebody you can talk to, somebody to help you understand. It may not be the cure-all, but I have always found, and I really mean this, that when you can open up and you can kind of let it go, the cross gets lighter. It may never be a cross that you'll never stop carrying, but the weight's off the shoulders. Because somebody has said to you, Dan, it's okay. I understand. You should understand. This is an episode, blah, 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 and you go down the line. But as long as you hold things in, it becomes worse. It becomes worse. And that's when you try to bury him with this, with that. Yeah. It doesn't work. So to anybody out there,
they try and find comfort that way.
Yeah, to anybody out there, if you lock into the situation, please find somebody you can talk to. Your parish priest, a friend, a psychologist, anything. Just get it off your chest. And that's why a lot of these young men and women who are involved in that scandal are feeling better because they're able to speak about it. And God bless Pope Francis, who has said, I understand. I understand. And he
acknowledges.
What's that?
He acknowledges it.
He acknowledges it. And even with the gay community, for the first time in history, a pope has said, it's okay. God made you that way.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
And for the Catholics, that must have been a relief.
Must have been a shock for a pope to say that. Yeah. He truly understands, and we all need to understand. God made us all different. People. Thank God. Thank God. Thank God. So I'm just saying my advice. I know in my
I think talking helps, not to get too deep onto a wrestling talk show, but there's a fan that chimes in sometimes on the premiere. He said he's been very suicidal, and just joining us on these shows, he feels like he's part of a community, being able to talk with all the other fans during the live chats, and we've had other fans that are trying to go sober that tune in sometimes to try and just get their minds off of addiction problems and battles, and just to have a little bit of fun and talk some wrestling. So as much as you and I sit here and we banter back and forth about the king of sports, professional wrestling, there's a lot of folks at home, all over the world literally, on their computers that are just enjoying us in different ways. And I think if that's a great gift to give. It really is.
If we can help,
yeah.
Yes. And I think with suicide, with other things, first of all, they need to be understood and loved. Because there's a reason that it's depression that drives us to suicide. It's breaking up with loved ones that drives us to suicide. You need to speak. You need to understand that someone cares. There might not be, people go, I got my own problems. But I listen to a lot of people. There is somebody out there that cares, and that's what they need to hear. I care. Marty Jannetty is a great friend and a great human being. I think the world of him. If I had something bad to say, you know me well enough. And so I guess that's where I end my conversation.
All right. Well, fans, you know what? Maybe I guess the plug we should get in the end is if you have issues of any kind, it doesn't have to be abuse, whether it's different kind of addictions or problems like that. At least mental health, I think, is more of an acceptable thing nowadays. And I don't want to overwhelm the man, but the president of our organization, Dr. David Reese, he's an acclaimed psychiatrist. You can Google him and get his information. He's willing to talk to anyone and help guide you in the right direction. He's certainly been a great friend to a lot of members of our community. I don't want to name any names, but I know specifically he's helped a couple of younger members of the MWF roster. He's a very giving man. He's a very caring man. And he'd be happy maybe not to be able to solve your problems, but at least be able to guide you to where you can get a little bit of help. And I think the more people that get a little bit of help, the better it is for everybody.
Amen.
All right, wrestling fans, we talked a little wrestling, we talked a little life. You never know what to expect on this show on a Friday night. We hope you enjoyed the program this week. Again, that Super Chat is open if you want to help us keep this show rocking and rolling. The holiday season is coming up. I don't know if I want to use that C word again.
Christmas season.
All right, the Christmas season.
I love that word.
It's coming. It's coming. The merchandise is available. You help keep the lights on. You keep the legends working. And you get an on-air shout-out from WWE Hall of Famer Mr. USA Tony Atlas. If he's eating, it might look like the back end of a snowblower, but you know what? Tony likes a good meal now and
He
then.
sure does.
The Patreon is available, fans. You get early ad-free access to this show, plus the studio shoot interview DVD library. Patreon.com/Boston Wrestling for my partner in crime, my paisan, Mr. John Cena Sr. I'm Dan Marati. We'll be back next Friday night after WWE SmackDown at the Thunderdome in Orlando. And don't forget, Tuesday nights at 9, it's Tony Atlas. Thursday nights at 9, it's Marty Jannetty. Until we speak again, be well, stay healthy. Good night.